I'm sorry, Sir Damian. I didn't expect you to be here.
What in the world are you doing down here? But what are you doing with that boy?
Nothing, we're just friends.
Well, I don't like the idea that you're getting along with him, or his brother, or anyone from their family.
Every day that passes, I'm more and more convinced you're a mean person.
Oh, is that what you think?
Only thing you know and do is treating people around you as if they were trash. The only thing I want to do now is to end my marriage once and for all. I've been dying to be free from his arms for years because I'm so fed up.
Yes, Lucy, I understand.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición entre dudas.
One more day, one more day.
I was born with a heart of a champion. It doesn't take a very long time to say thank you, Jaja, thank you, Jaja. When the music I play, sweet, sweet reggae music.
I ain't taking no calls on my struggles in the rearview mirror.
We always gotta sing together, play together. Girl, I'll be honest, gotta ride the weather, go whatever. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the prize.
I'm still here in the house of next time. For the love of the nation.
حب النبي رحمة ودواء والقلب من نور ارتوى.
Sasa Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala anatufahamisha ni nani anayefanya mtu kwa tajiri na ni nani anayefanya mtu kwa maskini na ni nani anayemfanya mtu kuwa kiongozi na ni nani anayefanya mtu kutokuwa kiongozi.
Vile vile anampa riziki na kumfakhirisha yule ambaye anamkusudia na anamkosesha yule asiyemtaka.
Subhanu Rabbi kammilu وبنور ربي جملوا يا روحي لروحي.
Suko na kiburi.
I hope by the time I'm coming back, you should have composed yourself with something meaningful to talk to me about.
You know nothing. I know the case inside out.
Forget it. I'm still in charge.
I see the type of the poison that your father is banking in your sweet brain.
Wow. So I don't have a brain.
Uwe kando wa hii case.
For the 10th time, I said I understand.
Why would you be telling me this?
Because I don't care about this case anymore.
You're given a chance and you messed it up, so I'm in charge now.
Jen, you have a lot of issues today.
Usijali.
No, we cannot speak on phone, my friend.
Hello?
I'm willing to bleed for my art, and I'm willing to make you bleed too.
Hold me.
Oh, goodness. You're bringing shame upon yourself.
You brat. I don't understand what my daughter sees in you.
I've known a lot of girls. Never known someone like you. Are you ready?
Similarly, if you want your son's trust, you can't just swipe a card and buy some gloves.
I suppose I could learn a thing or two from you. I don't know much about your past, but I can tell that you've been around.
有时建筑一座城堡，会放进去后就不再打扰。
Umeniweka vya kutosha hapa kwako. Nahisi huna kazi tena na mimi hapa. Tafadhali.
Sijui ni kwa nini nilikubali kujihusisha kwenye hili jambo.
Kijana, mimi kama ni pesa sina. Labda nikuachie gari unisamee maisha yangu.
What if it's God's will for me not to have a child?
This has got nothing to do with your ability to conceive.
I want you to know that your pain is my pain. And your life, my life.
Hey, 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 angazia jua la pendo lako.
A very good afternoon to you. Happy New Year to you and your loved ones. We hope that you crossed over the new year in good health. And today, thank you very much for joining us on Channel 1 Lunchtime News. My name is Betty Kiptum and Susan Thuku is my colleague on the sign language interpretation. Now, we start off with news from West Pokot, where leaders in the troubled border of Pokot Central and Marakwet East have urged the government to provide adequate security in the area in the wake of fresh banditry attacks. Led by Sigor Member of Parliament Peter Lochakapong, the leaders noted that insecurity has completely disrupted their lives as locals flee for safety. 4 people have so far been killed in the attacks.
The new year has started on a rather uncertain note for residents of Chesogon as hundreds of them flee their homes for fear of attack. Areas of Cheptulel, Apollo and Sokodo centers have also been affected. Sigor MP Peter Lochakapong, who toured the area, expressed concern over laxity by the security organs to conduct an operation in the area.
Tulikubaliana katika mikutano mingi na serikali kwamba hapa katika Chesogon hii waweke kituo cha polisi, na mpaka leo hiyo kituo haijajengwa, askari hawajakuja kukaa hapa, na sasa watu wetu wa West Pokot hapa na Sigor hapa wako na shida.
Sisi kama watu wa eneo hili tumesikitika na tunatoa wito kwa serikali ifanye jambo la kuweza kuleta amani, na kuleta hii amani lazima serikali askari wawe eneo hili, walete KBR, kwa sababu wananchi wa eneo hili hawana la kujilinda nayo. Wananchi hawana chochote cha kujilinda nayo.
The MP said that businesses have been affected and residents are running out of supplies, noting that the government needs to urgently intervene in bringing food aid to the affected areas.
Hapa hii maduka yote biashara imeharibika hapa. Hii maduka hapa imefungwa. Shule hii inaitwa Cheptulel Boys Secondary School. Hata sijui itafunguliwa namna gani. Cheptulel Primary hapa hatujui watoto wataanza kuja shule vipi. Apollo Primary, St. Mary's Cheptural Girls, hii mashule yote ya area hii watu sasa wamekuwa na wasiwasi, na mimi sijui sasa wale wanafunzi wa shule hizi watakuja shule namna gani, kwa sababu shule inafunguliwa leo.
Kwa hivyo kama kuna chakula hapa tumekuwa na kwa muda kwa hali hata ndio hakuna duka, hakuna nini. Kama kuna vile serikali anaweza kutusaidia chakula, at least atusaidie.
Pokot Central Sub-County Police Commander Bamford Sura, however, says that they are doing patrols along the border to make sure residents graze their livestock and ensure that everything is normalized.
Kuna some heads of animals ambayo wali manage kuchukua, but finally tulipambana na wao na bado tuko kwa ground so that the community wanaweza kuendelea kulisha ng'ombe wao bila matatizo.
There has been ongoing killings along the border despite the Chesogon peace accord signed in 2019 between the warring communities. Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
Now, medical personnel in Siaya are sounding an alarm over the increasing positivity rate of COVID-19 infections that is being driven by the Omicron variant. According to the county immunization coordinator, Joshua Ondiege, the county has been recording as high as 50% positivity rate daily. This coming as data from the Ministry of Health indicates that Tana River has fully vaccinated the least number of people at 3.6%, while Nairobi leads at 34.3%.
Kenya continues to record a double-digit COVID-19 infection rate for weeks now. On Monday, 1,223 new COVID-19 infections were recorded out of 4,003 samples screened. These indicating a 30.6% positivity rate. County governments have been urged to be extra vigilant, with Nairobi leading in the number of infections at 611. Nairobi is followed by Taita Taveta at 103 cases, Siaya 77, Kiambu 65 and Migori 38. Medical professionals in Siaya County are concerned by the number of cases being recorded in the county. The county immunization coordinator Joshua Ondiege says Siaya has been recording a 50% positivity rate, with a high number being attributed to the Omicron variant.
Basically, people have relaxed. You see, even now during the festive season, the Christmas time, people were just mixing freely. People are not minding about the mask, the distancing. It is something that's of concern, but yes, the transmission, and that's what has even made the transmission to rise the way you see. You see, around 50% positivity rate is too high.
Ondiege said that majority of the hospital admissions were the unvaccinated people.
Why we are saying vaccination is very important, all the people that have died within our isolation wards, they are all people who have not gotten vaccine. And even most, over 80% of the people who are admitted in the ward, they are people who have not gotten the vaccines. The rest of the other people, even if they get the infections, at least it's manageable, they are managed at home for home isolation.
On the 31st of December 2021, Kenya surpassed its target of vaccinating 10 million people before the end of the year. According to data from the Ministry of Health, Nairobi leads in number of those fully vaccinated at 34.3%, followed by Nyeri at 31.7%, Laikipia 25.1%, Kiambu 22.5%, and Kakamega 19.4%. The data further shows that Tana River has the least number of vaccinated people at 3.6%, followed by Turkana at 4.5%, Wajir at 4.7%, Narok 5.2%, and Bomet 5.3%.
It is important that the government really educate the Kenyans, make them understand the need for the vaccines, and most importantly, make it accessible at every point. So that if you came here for a press conference, if you've already been vaccinated, we should not be denied the chance, but we get a point to be vaccinated. It should be everywhere. Those restaurants and supermarkets should be put at the point of being vaccinated, because when you look clearly in the rural areas and many parts of this country, there are no vaccines available to everybody readily to be vaccinated.
Nancy Okware, Lunchtime News.
Now, overspeeding of public service vehicles resulting from ill-fitted speed governors has been blamed for the increased road accidents in the country. Road Safety Association of Kenya chairman David Njoroge Kiarie said that most of the public service vehicles operating on major highways across the country have faulty or invalid speed governors. He has asked motorists to exercise caution on the road.
The country recorded an increased number of road accidents in the month of December, according to statistics released by the National Safety and Transport Authority. Road Safety Association of Kenya is attributing this overspeeding by motorists.
Watendadao wote waingie barabarani vile tulivyofanya 2015, 2016, 2017. Tunataka tushirikiane hivyo ili at least tuokoe watu wetu wawache kuendelea kumalizwa na barabara.
The association chairman David Njoroge Kiarie claims that most of the public service vehicles operating on major highways across the country have either faulty or invalid speed governors.
Ile gari ukiangalia ilikuwa na speed governor. Na tunataka kuambia serikali wakati huu NTSA lazima waondoe trackers kwa barabara.
Kiarie regretted that 40% of all road-related deaths of innocent Kenyans are caused by overspeeding.
Hizi ajali zote zinatokea kwa sababu ya speed. Kwa sababu kusema kweli kama ile gari ingekuwa inaenda speed ya 80, haingemaliza wale watu wote.
Kiarie has called on speed governors vendors to recall their vehicles and fit them with the right devices to save lives. He is now calling on all stakeholders to tighten their belt in helping contain the situation before it gets out of hand, especially now that most parents are taking their children back to school.
Naomba madereva sana. Nawaomba tafadhali, watoto wetu wanarudi shule. Naomba madereva tafadhali, kuweni waangalifu. Msitumalizie watoto wetu. At least watoto waende shuleni.
Let's all keep safe on the road. Now, over 200 girls from the Kuria community in Migori County who had fled their homes to avoid being forced to undergo female genital mutilation have been reunited with their families. According to Mabera Sub-County Children Officer Janet Ruby, the girls aged between 10 to 15 years are set to resume learning as schools reopen this week. Elders in the Kuria community have pledged their commitment to ending FGM. This even as anti-FGM crusaders call for a change of strategy if the country is to realize the goal of ending FGM by 2022.
It is going to take time because circumcision is beyond higher learning. It is the social norms and values, and some people are viewing it as their way of living. So I believe that if the government can also adhere to implement those laws, also put aside funds to those administrations on the ground and those organizations working the same, so that they can also educate the parents and relatives who are really making these girls not to prosper, going through schools, leading to dropouts, early girl child marriages. Is a sad story.
Unajua kitu hata kama kuna ule mwenye haelewi anaona hiyo kitu labda ni ya maana sana ndani ya maisha yake, lakini hawajui kwamba wanafanyia watoto wasichana madhara. Unakuta Kuria kuna watoto wanasoma vizuri, na kama wamesoma hutawapata kwenye zile ngazi za makabila zingine, ni moja mbili, ama wakifika form 4 anaona wamefika. Kwa hivyo hata ukienda katika universities hutapata Wakuria wengi pale wasichana. Kwa hivyo sisi kama Wakuria pia tunaomba tukue kwa wengine, sio tukiachwa nyuma.
Organizations that are doing intervention towards reducing and eliminating FGM, we've also connected and formed a cross-border network that is aimed at stopping this. So yes, by 2022, even if we don't achieve it 100%, but we'll see a decline in that percentage as it used to be.
Now, world-renowned Kenyan conservationist Richard Leakey will be remembered for his prominent role in Kenya's vibrant civil society. Richard Leakey, who was one time a critic of former President Daniel Arap Moi's government, stunned the country when he was appointed Cabinet Secretary and head of the civil service in July 1999. One of the turning points in his life was when he controversially resigned as the director of Kenya Wildlife Service following allegations of a secret probe citing corruption and mismanagement in KWS.
Born on 19th December 1944, Richard Leakey, as a small boy, lived in Nairobi with his parents, who were anthropologists.
My parents had lived all their adult lives here. My father was born in Kabete, just where today the Mary Leakey School sits, in 1903. And my grandparents had come to Kenya in the middle 1890s. My grandmother came first, and she established a school in Mombasa, which was the first girls' school in Kenya.
Richard was originally reluctant to follow his parents' career and instead became a safari guide. From 1968 to 1989, Leakey was the director of the National Museums of Kenya. In 1989, he was made director of the Wildlife Conservation and Management Department.
Unless we can give local communities living around the parks some benefits from the wildlife in the parks, sooner or later these animals will not be able to move out. And when this happens, the threat of climate change will be even more intense. And I think you're going to see extinction happening more rapidly than we currently anticipate.
Devoted to the preservation of Kenya's wildlife and sanctuaries, Richard Leakey embarked on a campaign to reduce corruption within the KWS, crack down on ivory poachers, and restoring security at the Kenya's national parks. In doing so, Richard Leakey made numerous enemies.
I think political assassination is the wrong way to solve a problem. I think dialogue is the right way to solve it. I don't expect to be killed, but it's a possibility, and I hope that if there are people thinking about it, they will think carefully about the consequences of such an action in terms of Kenya's reputation and society generally.
In 1993, he had an accident in a small propeller-driven plane, crushing his lower legs, both of which were later amputated. Sabotage was suspected but never proved. Around this time, the government announced that a secret probe had found evidence of corruption and mismanagement in the Kenya Wildlife Service. An annoyed Leakey resigned publicly in a press conference in January 1994 and became a founding member of the opposition political party Safina. But the Safina party was routinely harassed, and even its application to become an official political party was not approved until 1997.
In Kenya, businessmen, everybody be free, foreigners do business. You have unlimited opportunities, but not political leadership.
Racism is tribalism. Tribalism will destroy this country. I haven't a position in the party. We don't yet have a party. When we have a party, I may or may not have a position in it, and we'll have to see whether it's divisive.
Just like he's promoted tribalism, he's now promoting racialism by sort of branding a Kenyan as a racist, as a white man. I mean, it's dangerous. It doesn't do any good to the investor confidence that one is trying to create for this nation.
During the same year, international donor institutions froze their aid to Kenya because of widespread corruption. To soothe the donors, former President Moi appointed Richard Leakey as Cabinet Secretary and Head of Civil Service in 1999. Leakey's second stint in the civil service lasted 2 years, during which he will be remembered for sacking 25,000 civil servants. However, Leakey was sacked from his cabinet post in 2001.
I think everybody knows that we've had some enormous scandals and misuse of public funds and misuse of public land. But it goes right the way through the system.
I've now great pleasure in presenting Professor Richard Leakey.
Since then, Richard Leakey dedicated himself to lecturing and writing on the conservation of wildlife and the environment.
Climate change is something that is indeed a part of the world, and is indeed fundamental to our existence, and is indeed fundamental to the existence that everything we see around us.
In 2002, Richard Leakey left Kenya for the United States and became a professor of anthropology. In 2015, Leakey returned to Kenya, where he was appointed chairman of the Kenya Wildlife Service by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Much of his attention was focused on curbing ivory poaching, which had dramatically increased.
We can burn ivory and do all these things, but unless we can persuade the public why we're doing it, we'll be wasting our time. Ivory must be seen as only valuable if it's on an animal. It should not be ever seen as a valuable commodity for trade.
He died on 2nd January 2022, aged 77.
May his soul rest in peace. Now, non-governmental organizations have condemned the recent altercation in the National Assembly, where some legislators resorted to resolve their differences physically. The NGO's chair, Stephen Cheboy, said such conduct is not expected of people privileged with leadership positions. Cheboy also urged the government to boost security in areas hit by attacks by militia.
Wabunge wetu waweze kujadiliana kwa njia nzuri ambayo hakuna makabiliano, vile tuliweza kushuhudia wakati ule katika bunge letu. Tunataka amani iweze kudumu katika taifa letu. Tunataka wananchi washirikiane na watu wetu ili tuweze kuwa na amani wakati huu muhimu.
Now, Mwingi West Member of Parliament Charles Nguna wants the government through the National Treasury to fast-track the release of CDF funds. The MP says that the delay in the release of the funds would have great impacts to many parents whose sources of livelihoods were affected due to the COVID-19 pandemic economic downturn.
We've not even received 40% of CDF money. I'm calling upon the National Treasury to release CDF immediately, and also the money for the ministry, so that they can be disbursed to schools, and the bursaries are not available, and the students are going back to school. It's high time we do it in a timely basis, because if we don't at all, we are going to have a lot of students, especially who fully depend on bursaries in schools. So the CS should release the funds immediately.
On that note, we take a quick break here on Lunchtime News. When we come back, more news. Stay with us.
Hold me?
Oh, goodness. You're bringing shame upon yourself.
You brat. I don't understand what my daughter sees in you.
I've known a lot of girls. Never known someone like you. Are you ready?
Similarly, if you want your son's trust, you can't just swipe a card and buy some gloves.
I suppose I could learn a thing or two from you.
I don't know much about your past, but I can tell that you've been around.
是建筑一座城堡，会放进去后就不再打扰。
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
I'm sorry, Sir Damian. I didn't expect you to be here.
What in the world are you doing down here? But what are you doing with that boy?
Nothing, we're just friends.
Well, I don't like the idea that you're getting along with him, or his brother, or anyone from their family.
Every day that passes, I'm more and more convinced you're a mean person.
Oh, is that what you think?
Only thing you know and do is treating people around you as if they were trash. The only thing I want to do now is to end my marriage once and for all. I've been dying to be free from his arms for years because I'm so fed up.
Yes, Lucy, I understand.
lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición entre dudas. One more day, one more day. I was born with a heart of a champion. Doesn't take a very long time to say thank you, Jaja, thank you, Jaja. When the music I play today, sweet, sweet reggae music. I ain't taking no calls on my struggles in the rearview mirror. We always gotta sing together, play together. Girl, we always gotta ride the weather, come whatever. Lift up your head and hold it up high. We know that we'll win the prize. I'm still here in the house of Bethlehem for the love of the nation. حب النبي رحمة ودواء والقلب من نور ارتوى.
Sasa Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala anatufahamisha ni nani anayefanya mtu kwa tajiri na ni nani anayefanya mtu kwa maskini na ni nani anayemfanya mtu kuwa kiongozi na ni nani anayefanya mtu kutokuwa kiongozi.
Vile vile anampa riziki na kumfakhirisha yule ambaye anamkusudia na anamkosesha yule asiyemtaka.
Subhanu Rabbi kammilu wabnuru Rabbi jammilu ya ruhi li ruhi. I'm willing to bleed for my art, and I'm willing to make you bleed too.
I hope by the time I'm coming back, you should have composed yourself with something meaningful to talk to me about.
You know nothing. I know the case inside out. Forget it. I'm still in charge.
I see the type of the poison that your father is banking in your sweet brain.
Wow. So I don't have a brain. For the 10th time I said I understand.
Why would you be telling me this?
Because I don't care about this case anymore.
You're given a chance and you messed it up, so I'm in charge now.
Jen, you have a lot of issues today.
Usijali.
No, we cannot speak on phone.
My friend. Hello?
Thank you very much for staying with us, and also for those who are following us online, we appreciate your viewing. Edward Rono Sarma, you say you're watching from Sarma Kaptumo. Quinto Ojuma watching from Buruburu, as well as Philip Langat watching from Kericho, and Ali Hamza watching live from Masaku. Thank you very much for watching Channel 1 Lunchtime News. We get into other news. Passenger service vehicle operators in Kisumu are yet to implement the directive by the government to have unvaccinated people barred from using their vehicles. A spot check by Channel 1 amid schools reopening for the third term established that the PSVs were carrying every passenger available and had hiked fares to capitalize the back to school. Weekly Fokech reports.
The directive by the government barring unvaccinated people from using public transport vehicles appears to have fallen on deaf ears, as some matatu operators in Kisumu chose to carry every passenger available regardless of their vaccination status. PSV operators said it was difficult to implement the directive as this will deny them business.
Siwezi danganya baba kwa saa hizi kwa juu hapa stage venye tuko hatuna venye tunaweza tambua ati nani amepata chanjo na nani hajapata chanjo.
Unajua watu wote huwezi uliza, lakini kwa wale wamekuja kwa masaa hizi, hata tukienda na wewe pale, nikiuliza utaona watatoa message ya kwamba amechanjwa. Sasa hata sisi tumebelieve ya kwamba watu hata mimi nimechanjwa.
And as schools reopened for third term, some matatu operators opted to maintain the normal bus fare rates, citing the difficult economic situations parents are facing. They noted that the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a toll on many parents, hence hiking the fares would only compound the parents' misery.
Hatuna bei tumeongeza kwa sababu watu wametoka Christmas, watu wametoka New Year, na hii nini ya COVID pia ilileta kila kitu ikakuwa standstill. So hakuna haja tuongeze bei ya kwamba ati fulani alipe pesa fulani, kwa sababu hata saa hii ukiongeza bei bado ni kuumiza wazazi.
The difficult economic situations, however, did not deter some operators from hiking the bus fares, as they took advantage of the high demand for transport occasioned by schools reopening to make a kill.
Sasa saa hii inabidi, unajua saa hizi hakuna magari, ni uchache wa magari. Unapata saa hizi magari Nairobi, unajua saa hizi tuko na two way. Saa hii watu wanatoka huku wakienda Nairobi, kuna wengine wanatoka Nairobi wakuje huku. Kumaanisha magari zetu kwa saa hizi imekuwa chache.
Modern Coast Coach, for instance, charged 4,000 shillings from Kisumu to Mombasa against the normal 2,200 shillings, and 1,700 shillings from Kisumu to Mombasa against the 1,200 shillings charged on normal days. For Lunchtime News, I am Wycliffe Okech.
Now, a section of Amani National Congress leaders have rubbished reports that their party leader Musalia Mudavadi will sacrifice his presidential bid and support Deputy President William Ruto in the forthcoming general elections. Led by Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala, the leaders insisted that Musalia Mudavadi will be on the ballot paper as a candidate for presidency in the August 9th poll.
Speaking in Shinyalu, the Amani National Congress brigade led by Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala dismissed rumors that ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi will relinquish his quest for presidency in favor of William Ruto's presidential bid in the forthcoming general elections.
Juzi Ruto amekuwa kule Mumias akisema kwamba amekuja kwa sababu Musalia amemtuma. Pia Raila akakuja kule anasema ametumwa na salamu za Musalia. Musalia sasa nataka watu wajue kwamba haendi kwa Ruto, haendi kwa Raila, anaenda mpaka kwa Debe.
Hapa Buhungu wale watu walikuwa wamejaa ni mapolisi na watu kutoka Kisumu, lakini Mumias Waluya walikuwa wamejaa kwa wingi kabisa. Hiyo ni ishara kwamba Waluya wamechoka. Sasa hivi tuko nyuma ya Musalia Mudavadi.
Anaenda mpaka kwa Debe. Yeye anatafuta running mate. Anatafuta mtu ambaye anaitwa Deputy President. Na tumeweka net kule Central. Tumeweka net kule Coast. Tumeweka net mpaka kule Ukambani.
Senator Malala also accused former Premier Raila Odinga and his team from ODM camp of playing tribal politics.
Nitakubali majina yote. Nimekubali jina ya Omondi ambaye Raila amenipatia. Wakikuyu watanipatia Karanja. Wamasai watanipatia ingine ya Olekina. Wakamba watanipatia ya Musyoka. Hizo majina unanipatia Raila zitanifanya niwe rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya kabla wewe ukuwe rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
This even as Defense Cabinet Secretary Gino Malwa encouraged aspirants to visit any part of the country to entice voters ahead of elections, saying nobody has a monopoly to do politics in any one region.
Tuataka watu wote wawe free kutembea kote Kenya kuuza sera zao. Tuataka mzee wetu Raila Odinga na Azimio, timu yetu ya Azimio la Umoja watembee Kenya yote waweze kuuza sera zao. Tuataka Deputy President William Ruto na timu yake ya UDA wawe huru kutembea kote wauze sera zao. Hata ndugu zetu wa Oka pia wawe huru kutembea Kenya wauze sera zao kwa amani.
Speaking in Lukusi village in Webuye East constituency during the burial of a famous Tachoni elder Wellington Lusamoywa, Wamalu asserted that Azimio la Umoja team led by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga will form the next government.
Sisi Waluya, watu wa nyumba ya Mlembe, tukiwa na jambo headquarter yetu ni Kakamega. Tukikutana Buhungu tuamue, si tumeamua? Sasa ndugu yetu Malala nafikiri jana amejifunza ya kwamba Kakamega sio bedroom yake. Kakamega ni bedroom ya Waluya wote, na ndio headquarter yetu.
In Kiambu, Member of Parliament Jude Njomo has dismissed a pollster that ranked his constituency poorly in utilization of the National Government Constituency Development Funds. Speaking during a blessing ceremony of the Kiambu NGCDF Tower, Njomo said his development record can only be judged by his constituents.
Sisi kutafuta project ya kufanya atire inaonekana nafanya project ile ambao tuko na haja naye, and that is why we have built 6 new secondary schools ili watoto wetu pate mahali ya. The only person I want me to rate me ni mtu wa Kiambu. Hawa wengine hata wakinipatia 100 au wanipatia namba 1, it doesn't matter. I want to be rated by people of Kiambu, by development projects zile nimeleta through wao wenyewe ndio walitoa hii maneno wakati tulizunguka kufanya strategic plan. Wao ndio walionyesha ni kitu gani ambao wanahitaji, na hiyo vitu ndio tunafanya.
We have other developments that connect Kiamba and Kiambu constituency. We had come to discuss, despite the fact that he's in Jubilee and I'm in UDA, we agree. So there is always a way we put our differences aside and we march forward, we put our agendas together and we move forward. And that is the way to go.
Kiambu Deputy County Commissioner, who was present at the ceremony, urged the electorate to choose leaders wisely.
Let's not choose our political leaders based on entertainment. Tafadhalini. Kama huwezi enda na gari ya mtu mwenye amenunua license, kama unajua, angalia kiongozi, angalia tajriba yake, experience yake, angalia integrity yake.
Ben Chumba, Lunchtime News.
Now, in business news, traders exporting goods to Uganda might be forced to incur additional charges before accessing the East African nation market. This is after Uganda issued a notice directing all people, including truckers, take a mandatory COVID-19 vaccine at border points at their own cost. The vaccine certificate will only be valid for a week.
Since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in Kenya, trade between Kenya and her neighboring countries has been running into headwinds due to measures aimed at controlling the spread of the virus. Mid-2020, Kenya ordered the closure of the border except for cargo vehicles in measures aimed at containing the spread of COVID-19, with Tanzania retaliating by banning all cargo trucks from Kenya. The same scenario is likely to play out between Kenya and Uganda, after Uganda directed all people and trucks entering the country be vaccinated at the border points at their own cost.
Maybe Uganda have put up other measures which they have said it is mandatory that anybody entering the country must test. So it is not the issue of saying that our results have a problem. Our results have no problem. It is only their own measures that they have decided as a country to enforce.
The vaccine certificate will be valid for only 1 week and will cost 3,600 Kenyan shillings.
Inafaa aminiane kwa sababu huu mwaka wa 3 tangu mambo ya COVID kila mmoja anapima kwao. Hao napima wanaingia Kenya hakuna shida, na sisi tunapima Kenya tunakwenda Uganda ilikuwa hakuna shida yote.
These as Kenyan exporters to Ethiopia are complaining of increased levies charged at the Kenyan-Ethiopian border point in Moyale. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Moyale chapter, claim they are charged up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings by Kenyan authority to clear foodstuffs that are destined for the Ethiopian market.
Kama sahi currently ile issue imetuleta hapa ni mambo na double taxation. Idara moja ikiletwa hapa mambo ushuru kiongezeka, sisi kama wafanyabiashara tunafaa kuitwa tuelemishwe.
They want the government to harmonize taxes across the country to bring down export levies.
Tunalipa 187 zamani. Totally ikiongezwa KEFIS, health, maneno mingi ndio yanaendelea, inafika mpaka 300,000. Na kule border zingine Uganda na Tanzania ni 26,000.
Benson Rioba reporting for Lunchtime News.
Further afield, U.S. technology giant Apple has become the first company to hit a stock market valuation of $3 trillion. Apple has been one of the big winners of the pandemic as coronavirus lockdown saw spending on gadgets jump. Apple sales are majorly from its gadgets and services they provide to consumers worldwide. Here are the details of these and more from across the globe.
The iPhone typically accounts for around half of the company's sales, while it is also well known for its iPad tablets and Mac computers. Increasingly important parts of the business are software sold through the Apple Store, storage space via the iCloud, and services such as its music, television, and fitness subscription platforms. The company became the first company to hit a stock market valuation of $1 trillion in August 2018. However, its value slipped a little from the milestone to end trading session in New York at $2.99 trillion. It took just over 16 months for Apple's stock market valuation to rise from $2 trillion to $3 trillion as the world's biggest technology companies saw demand soar as people became more reliant on smartphones, tablets, and laptops during lockdowns. Meanwhile, Turkey's annual inflation rate has soared to a 19-year high, underlining the country's financial turmoil and alarm over its president's policies. Prices hit more than 36% December as the cost of transport, food and other staples ate into the households' budgets. Most central banks raise interest rates to help cool inflation, but Turkey has gone the other way. It has meant a collapse in the value of lira as Turkey's president prioritizes exports over currency stability. The lira shed 44% of its value against the dollar last year and fell another 5% on Monday before recovering to trade flat. The drop in the lira has made the price of inflation fueling imports more expensive, ranging from energy to many of the raw materials. Turkey's manufacturers turn into exports. The cost of living is expected to rise further, especially after recent hikes in the price of electricity and gas bills of around 50% and 25% respectively. Finally, shares in crisis-hit Chinese property developer Evergrande has risen after trading in Hong Kong resumed. The heavily indebted firm suspended its shares on Monday pending the release of inside information. It comes after Evergrande said its sales for 2021 plunged 39% from the year before $69.5 billion. The company also confirmed it had been ordered to demolish 39 buildings on the island of Hainan. The firm said the buildings affected by the demolition ordered are at its Ocean Flower Island project and added the decision does not involve the other plots of land in the project. Evergrande shares have lost almost 90% of their value in the last year as investors fret that it may be close to collapsing under the weight of its debts. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
Now back home, the 70-kilometer Nanyuki-Rumuruti road has been earmarked for a 3.3 billion shilling upgrade. Infrastructure Principal Secretary Paul Maringa says the road will open up the region for more investments and is part of plans to rehabilitate and construct 250 kilometers of roads in Laikipia County.
We look for sufficient funds to upgrade this road fully to bitumen standards. It's a 70-kilometer road that will cost about 3.3 billion shillings. We really can't wait until then. We want to start doing it on a stage improvement basis so that we can now bring the same development and growth to this area. Laikipia itself is also quite blessed in terms of roads. I think the only challenge is it's very expansive. The government has so far built about 223 kilometers of roads under Kenya Rural Roads Authority, KERA. 223 kilometers of road, and these 223 kilometers of road have costed government about 13 billion shillings. Let me say overall will cost 13 billion shillings because some are in progress, some are complete. A total of 13 billion shillings.
Now, across borders, Ugandan transporters who ply the Gulu-Juba route are optimistic that the setup of the Gulu logistics hub will significantly reduce their travel time and distance to South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The EU-funded project worth $29 million is being implemented by Trademark East Africa. Details of these and more in our Africa Business News Roundup.
The new facility will provide container and break bulk handling and storage facilities, including bonded and non-bonded warehouses, as well as provide space for stakeholders dealing with freight transport. Goods dropped off at the new facility by road from northern Uganda, South Sudan, and DRC can be transported to the Kenyan border town of Malaba through Tororo by rail. Similarly, goods from Kenyan border will be transported by rail and then picked up from the hub without traders having to travel through Kampala and incur extra cost of warehousing them in Kampala or Jinja. The hub to be operated by the private sector will also provide accompanying services such as customs inspections, tax payment, maintenance and repair, as well as banking and information communication technology connections. Meanwhile, high-tariff forex policies has triggered Nigeria's low cargo throughput. The government's inability to reduce tariffs and foreign exchange crisis will continue to give other West and Central Africa countries a comparative advantage ahead of Nigeria in the maritime business. The Congregation of Registered Freight Forwarding Practitioners of the Nigeria has warned that Nigeria will experience lower investment in its ports if the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria do not revise the policy, which has denied importers access to foreign exchange. Finally, Emirates has extended its ban on flights from South Africa while Qatar and Etihad remain grounded. Emirates' ban on passenger flights from South Africa was initially due to end on 31st December 2021. But in a notice to travel trade partners, the United Arab Emirates flag carrier announced an extension to the ban, with outbound flights from Johannesburg now suspended until at least 10th January. Its competitors in the region, Etihad and Qatar, are also restricting passengers to travel from South Africa. In addition to extending the ban on passenger flights from South Africa, Emirates added further restriction on travelers from 10 other African nations, including Kenya, Ghana and Zimbabwe. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
Now in sports, Nduluku Pioneer Women and Nyati FC are the women and men winners respectively of the 9th edition of Manake Dennis Football Tournament that was held in Mboni, Makueni County. Nduluku beat MBA Starlets by a solitary goal in a highly contested match that was staged at Nduluku Playing Grounds, while in the men category, Nyati FC defeated Nduluku FC at their home turf ground 1-0 to emerge victorious. The tournament, which was in its 9th edition, is geared towards giving youth a chance to showcase their talent and nurture talent from the grassroots levels.
We've been able to see men who are playing good football, which can be admitted in the National League, in the FKF, and it's a good platform. This is where it grows. I mean, this is where Kina Michael Lunga have been made. This is where Kina Victor Nyama have been made. They have started right from the village, and that is what we are doing here. And we are so much grateful, and we hope that this continues, not now and even the days to come.
Jana wanatumika vibaya. Wanapewa pesa, wanapewa pombe, wanapewa kila aina ya drugs ili wakaweze kutawanya mikutano na vitu kama hizo. Lakini watoto wetu tukiwaleta pamoja kuwa na mikutano ya kama hii ya mchezo, najua ya kwamba wataenda pale wakati wa uchaguzi na wafanye wa uchaguzi ambapo wakiwa soba na wakiwa hawajaharibiwa na madawa. Kwa hivyo najua hao vijana vile tulianza 2014 and they have confidence on what we have been doing on the ground. I know at the end of the day they are going to make a very good decision when it comes to 2022 in all election seats.
Now, João Montinho struck the only goal 8 minutes from time to give Wolves a deserved 1-0 victory at Old Trafford and end Ralph Rangnick's unbeaten start